South Florida is home to many types of people, of many different classes. We attract tourism every year for our beaches and entrepreneurism, our hotels, and expensive cars. Living in the shadows of all this wealth are over 4,000 homeless children and youth. In Florida, Palm Beach is ranked as one of the best counties to live in. Yet, when it comes to homeless children, it ranks number 2 in the state. There has been a 28% increase in youth homelessness in this county in the year 2019 alone. Yet, there are no shelters in Palm Beach County. Our economy and current system makes it hard, with most struggling to find a home. This is the real South Florida. It's not always families sleeping on the street or up under a bridge. It's families sleeping in cars, girls on the run from their abusive fathers or boyfriends. It's students couch surfing from home to home or family to family. It's 2, 3, and sometimes 4 families living in one home to make it. This targets them, makes some feel unwelcome, living in the shadow of the sun. Each year, more than 5,000 youth die on the street. That is an average of 13 youth dying every day. That's like Columbine happening every single day, and nobody wants to talk about it. When you think of homelessness, what do you think of? Unfortunate, despair, criminal, mentally unstable? You think it's their problem, and that it isn't something that applies to us at all. There are a lot of people that end up homeless, just from unfortunate circumstances and uncontrolled situations. Our children and youth in this county are just as affected as anyone else. Foster care is the most common circumstance of childhood homelessness here in Florida. The system that we've created here is often traumatic on children. Many of the 22,000 kids in foster care live with extreme cases of poverty, neglect, and abuse. Homelessness is something that can happen to anyone, no matter how old you are. Meet Angie, who was admitted into the foster care system from a very early age. Her family and area that she lives in have led her down that path, and she has chosen to make her life different from the people that she's attached to by blood.
What got me to the point in homelessness was basically being born into foster care. Some foster homes weren't the best. It was a foster home I was in where they treated me like a slave. They had me go get them this and that, and if we didn't do it, they'll put us in a room with rats and bugs. It was very tormenting. I fell into a deep stage of depression because as I got older, I started to understand these aren't my parents. It was awkward because I felt like I didn't fit in. I have this burning passion to want to be successful so bad because I had so many people doubting me, saying I'll be just like my mom or my dad, I'll never be anything, I'll be on drugs. Like I've encountered a good foster home where I was staying there for a couple years, and it was great until like I was abused and raped, and not like rape from just random people, but your supposedly family looking at you and touching you. I wasn't only getting physical abuse by foster parents. My sister also applied that, and it was just, we weren't the closest, and it came to the point where she was very violent. She had to go into the juvenile place or whatever you want to call it, and so where I stayed at, it was a lot of like robbing, and the neighborhood was known for like gunshots, watching people get killed in front of you, watching the drugs, and then the violence. It's so much, and it's like you go to school and everybody's separated into their own categories. As you'll say, the Blood, the Crips, or whatever gang you want to call it. It was just so much animosity and tension. Like everyone's not focused on their education, they're focused on their image. And my dad, wow. Actually, it's kind of crazy because he was basically on his deathbed yesterday. And my heart is just, it's not evil. So me being the person, I just wanted to go up to the hospital and let him know that I forgive you for everything that you did do and that you didn't do. My mom, as they would say on my file, because when you're in foster care, you have this big book that follows you everywhere. She wasn't the best. And I mean, at the same time, I can't hate her for what happened to me, but it hurts. But at the end of the day, it made me who I am. I actually went to go visit her like a good maybe week or 2 weeks ago. I wanted to know why no one fought for me. Like, was I not worth it? Because growing up, I felt so unloved, so unworthy. I wanted answers. It wasn't nothing like bad on my heart, but I felt like you weren't there through my rough times when I needed you. So why would I invite someone somewhere where I'm about to go over a milestone, and when I needed them, they weren't there? So I wouldn't say it was hate, but it was like, what's the point? It was very painful, because I'm not even gonna lie, I broke down in front of like everyone, and it was so embarrassing. But I mean, I can't help the pain that was going on in the inside of me, because you will see like kids with their parents, and it's like, bro, I don't have parents, but I made it. So I mean, at the end of the day, it was very painful, and it hurt so bad, because like, bro, I really needed my mom and my dad. Like, I wanted a relationship. Like, it didn't even have to be anything serious, but something, it would have worked. And it was just, I was so ready to go. I didn't even want to walk, to be honest. I was like, what's the point? My parents aren't here. I don't care anymore. I just wanted to get my diploma and just go. So, I mean, it's a very painful feeling. And not only not having, I didn't even have both parents there. So it really destructed me on the inside. It made so much anger in me, and it was embarrassing, because I really broke down in front of so many people, and they're like, oh my God, what's going on? And I'm standing there like, I really have no one. But it really pushed me though.
According to the Huffington Post, this year is the 6th straight year 60% or more of teens reported that their high schools are drug infested. 17% of American high school students are drinking, smoking, or using drugs during the school day, according to a new study by the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse. Many people are one paycheck away from becoming homeless, even when young adults are expected to come of age and lead their own lives. The money that they earn here in our county is not nearly enough to help pay for things that they need. Houses and apartments are for the fortunate in Palm Beach County. Having a roof over your head is hard to come by for some young adults who have found themselves all alone. Meet Gustavo, a young man with a unique story.
How I became homeless is I was working for a construction company. I was working them for a month. I haven't been paid at all. There was a lot of problems we were going on with the company. One of our inspectors got injured on the job site, so they were facing a lawsuit from the city of Palm Springs. And because of that, it was taking a while for some of us to even see some money. It's not only me, it was a few other coworkers of mine that had that same problem just like me. But they ended up managing to recover. I couldn't. I ended up losing my place to stay, so it was a bit tough for me. I try to get a contact with family to see if they can help me out, but they're all a little bit busy with their own circumstances with financial, and I ended up going to Lake Worth in a place called John Prince Park, and you'll have police officers and others tell you, you can't be in the front because, it's a public park, and, they don't want to have that stigma of a bunch of people just standing at the front like that. So they usually usher you to the back of the park and try to keep you there for a while. Normally it doesn't work. Mostly everyone ends up migrating to the front. But when I first got to John Prince Park, I really didn't know what to do. I was confused. I was trying to gather as much as I possibly could. I had so much going through my mind, I had no idea what I was doing. So I almost got mugged, and a guy helped me out, and he basically kind of showed me around where to go and where not to go, be careful who I talk to, who I not talk to. I was sleeping under the overpass bridge of I-95, and it was rough because the cars never stop. Cars constantly going by. You get no sleep. And I've had people give me judgment just because where I was sleeping. You know, I had a couple people say I was a drug addict. Just because of where I was, it gave me like a back stigma. And it was tough because I would have people just yell at me, get a job or go back to rehab, do something better with your life. You know, it was tough because I had that and they didn't know what I was going through. It took a toll on me because I wasn't on drugs, I wasn't drinking. Having some strangers come and yell at me, call me a drug addict, or telling me that, you know, I needed to get on with my life, it's easier said than done. To be in a situation like this and just constantly let down, it takes a mental, emotional, and sometimes physical toll on you. I've had a few problems with drugs before, so trying to stay clean as possible is probably one of the toughest things you face, especially coming to homeless, because when you're homeless, there's so much emotion that go through you, it's not easy. You face it alone, you have no one to talk to, and for some people, drugs seem like the best way to forget your problems. So it's hard because you don't want to relapse, because if you relapse, it just makes everything worse. You worry about, are you going to get robbed? Is you leave your stuff right there for just a few minutes, you come back, will it be all gone? You know, food, water, it runs through your head a lot. What is my next step? Where do I go? What can I do to benefit myself so I can bounce back from this, so I can continue my life? And for a minute, I couldn't get an answer. I was stuck.
Almost 60,000 families with children are homeless on any given night in the United States, according to the 2017 federal point-in-time count. Nationally, that means 7.4 out of every 10,000 families are homeless. Substance abuse and drugs are easy to get caught in when you get stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. It can affect your stability, mentality, and life. Meet Crystal with a story of hardships and trials.
There was quite a few times I was homeless. The first time was when I was in New Jersey. That's where I was born and raised. I got into drugs with my ex-husband. I was a waitress and he was the head chef. And he was prescribed painkillers because he has lupus. So he would get like 120, 30 milligram oxys. So it was just a constant supply. So like I wouldn't have to spend any money on it. So like it became more of an everyday thing. And then it got to a point where if I didn't do one, I would notice I would get sick. And then at a point when his lupus kicked in pretty rough is when he stopped working as much, and we'd sell the pills. We didn't have to, but we did. We'd sell the pills to get money, and then we'd sell them to a point where we didn't have enough for ourselves because we needed to do more and more. So heroin's cheaper. So we started getting heroin from our dealers, and then that consumed us. That was our only thought. And we had 2 daughters. I have 2 older daughters, Peyton and Isabella. They're 7 and 6. And we were homeless time and time again, got evicted, and family member to family member's home, to the point where when he got arrested for possession, me and the girls were homeless in the car for about a month. my whole life hasn't been easy. Nobody cared around me, so there wasn't anywhere I felt like I could go. That's how I stayed with my ex-husband. He had the drugs. That's, that's what I wanted. Where was I going to go with 2 kids? You feel dependent on them. I lived with my mother for a while, and then I came down here for treatment, which was not treatment. It turned out not to be treatment. When I came down here, I was just dropped off at a halfway house. So my kids were just taken by DCF. My husband was locked up, and I was just dropped off at this house. And as soon as I walked in there, I was very emotional, and immediately my halfway house owner asked me if I wanted to get high. Absolutely. It's the insanity of, you get your kids taken away because of drugs, but you use drugs because you got your kids taken away, because that's how you numb the pain and the emotions and the hurt. So it's just insanity, because you're fully aware of it, but you can't stop it. So I started working for my halfway house owner, where he would, I would go pick up people who were clean, go get them high. He'd give me money to get them high and high for myself, and drop them off at a detox center, because when you refer somebody through insurance, the insurance gives you a payout of about $3,000. So he would get the money. He would give us, enough money for dope, and maybe the person like $100 or something like that,
They're called sober homes, and they're supposed to be an environment to help addicts heal. But a Four in Your Corner investigation is uncovering the dark side of these homes, where fraud, drug use, even death have become an ongoing cycle.
Florida's drug treatment industry is a billion-dollar business, and sober homes are popping up in neighborhoods like yours all over Florida. But a lack of regulation has led to many shady operators, where allegations of rape, human trafficking, and illegal drug use run rampant. That's because drug addiction is considered a disability, and federal law protects them against any limits on where they can live.
I'd live in the streets, or sometimes the halfway house owners would let me stay there for a little bit until I found something new. So we'd go sleep in a parking lot, or just find anywhere to just lay our heads.
Many homeless are in a complicated situation that has resulted from their circumstances and environment. Meet Denisha. Her circumstances have led her down her own path.
My daddy, well, not my daddy, my sperm donor was incarcerated for 16 years. He robbed an FBI agent, so he was incarcerated for 16 years. My mother, she claims that she was distraught by me being taken away from her and them terminating her parental rights, so she eventually took off on drugs. Yeah, my aunt adopted me, which is my mom's sister. She adopted me, but she was one of those love lost people. So, any guy that was like, oh, I love you, that's where she was at. I'm not gonna lie, she did her best to raise me. And, I use her tactics as raising my child too, because she was a very good influence on me. And, I was just that. I tried to make contact with my father once he got out of prison, but it didn't work out. And, my mother, she was wherever her boyfriend was, that's what she was. So I couldn't call on nobody else but God. Everything started off good when I was in foster care, in all honesty. When I turned 18, that was the real struggle, because I hadn't graduated and I was focused on living my own life because I thought I knew everything. And without an education, it's terrible. It's like trying to find jobs, and especially trying to get housed, because I didn't know that you had to make at least 2 to 3 times what you're making in order to qualify for a place. I was thinking it was all, I'm gonna go look for an apartment, I'm working, it's easy, but it's nothing like that. It's a complete mirage. I ended up getting back in contact with foster care. I got in contact with my caseworker, you know, got back in school. Still hadn't graduated at the time, but they did assist me with getting my own place. I was young, so everything was based off of, you know, friends, how they felt about me, and I didn't take life as serious as I should at a young age. So, you know, I was partying and I was selling dope, I was selling all type of drugs, you know, anything to keep money in my pockets. But it didn't work out that way. I got caught up in a lot of stuff with guns. I ended up going to jail for a while. Bouncing back and forth from Palm Beach to Belgrade for 8 months almost. And my turning point was when I went in confinement. I got into a fight when I was incarcerated. And I was in the hole for like 30 days. And like I was just sitting there, you know, like praying and talking to God, you know, and I was like, you know, I really want to get it right. You know, I don't want to be who my parents are. I don't want to be like my mother and my father or anybody else in my family who wasn't successful. I don't want to be like that. And I was like, what is it going to take? You know, I don't want to be that example of getting shot 7, 8 times, paralyzed, sitting in a wheelchair the rest of my life. Like, I got enough issues up here, you know what I'm saying? I don't need physical issues too, you know. And then I got out on probation. After that, I just been trying to stay away from that side of the tracks. And it was hard because I didn't have no one I could depend on. You know, growing up in foster care, I didn't really know my family like that. I was homeless about a year, but, you know, like pillow to posting, I always tried to make sure I had somewhere to stay. It was even a point I was sleeping in the back of my homeboy's van. Like, and the back windows were shot out of it because at the time I was living in Firehouse right here in Rivera. And there was a war between Monroe Heights and Firehouse. So, you know, like every day there was constantly like shooting. And, like one night I was sleeping in the back of the car and like the bullet went flying through the window. But like I thank God I was sleeping because, you know, had I been, you know, up trying to be nosy, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Right. But yeah, like I was homeless about a year, you know, dating different girls because I ain't had nowhere to stay and just, you know, just really out there. Out there. You have different definitions of out there. So you got some people who work and still sell their traditional drugs, and then you got some people who have absolutely no option, where there's no education, so they don't qualify for a high-paying job, or if they have a terrible background, which means they can't get a good job. So the only other thing to do is sell drugs, pimp, or in some female cases, prostitute, steal, whatever you have to do to survive. But my thing is, it's all about what you're doing, well, why you're doing what you're doing, you know? Because, you know, if you're doing it to feed your kids, that's one thing, you know? But if you're just doing it to be, you know, to have some weed to smoke for the night, I don't agree with that. But that's basically like what it is, you know? How they said in the streets, you get in there how you live, you know? And it's different because, you know, it is about race, but it's not about race. Majority of the Caucasian people, they already have their life pretty much set for them. So, you know, daddy already got millions and billions, mama got millions and billions, great-grandparents. So, you know, they really don't have to do nothing but go to school, and not even if they don't want to. Like, but, you know, in the African-American community, it's completely different, you know, because you grow up watching your parents not have nothing. So the average African-American child looks, especially like mom or dad, whoever showed you the most love, they're gonna be like, man, look, I don't want my mom, I want to see my mom struggling like that. Like, I'm old enough now, I can make it happen now. You know, but they don't think to let me finish school, you know, so I can do this the right way. They take the wrong way about it, which is how they end up getting caught back up inside the system, and it starts all the way over again. It's the same cycle all over again until somebody takes a different road to break it, you know.
The first step that we can all take is to see the homeless as human. Multiple organizations are taking a step to fix this issue. Vida Nova, a place for homeless youth that have aged out of foster care and are between the ages of 18 to 24 that need guidance for becoming productive citizens in our county.
Vida Nova has helped me beyond measures, like with the emotional support, physical support, talking, being there to listen.
Vida Nova can get you in probably the Luna Center or a shelter, anywhere.
Hannah's home houses women that need help, are homeless, and struggling.
And then I came to Hannah's home. I got clean and treatment 6 months. They just kept me there. That was the first sign of hope I had.
So I finally got on my phone. I'm like, I gotta do something. Pregnant. So I see Hannah's home. I called that night. Our founder, Miss Carol, answered the phone. I'm homeless. I don't have anywhere to go. It was pouring down rain that day. I was like, I'm rain. I haven't ate. And then she was like, come right now. Just come right now. Just come. And Miss Betty's who I saw when I walked in, and she just gave me a hug, and I just like broke down.
St. Anne's Place addresses the issue of homeless hygiene. They give the homeless a place to shower and find basic toiletries to make themselves feel better.
One thing about working here is you see everything. You see the real side of it here. Most of the people that come to us are desperate, and you have to remember that. This is probably the lowest point of homelessness. They're sleeping either in their cars, in the parks, or right alongside our building on the street. So these services are really needed to them. They really need them. The other thing is, it's amazing to watch someone go into the shower and come out, because they'll come out a whole different person with a whole different attitude.
One shower.
One shower.
The Lord's Place is a homeless organization that also works with homeless families to try and get them off the streets and living on their own. These organizations are just the beginning of trying to help the homeless here in Palm Beach County. Understanding people in their struggles, no matter how old they are, can bring us one step closer to helping out those in our community. We should work together to make these youth feel less unwelcome.